2D action-adventure titles from an isometric or three-quarters view can be traced back to games like A Link to the Past, with indie developers carrying their torch in the modern age, so the best upcoming games begins with Moonshire, set in a non-linear world filled with numerous challenges and rewards. You play as the Sage's apprentice, which, side note, has a classic indie game character design, who is forced to flee their homeland due to an ominous threat, now having to find a way to save the land. Combat and exploration are central here, with powerful key items shown off in this trailer, which should enable you to solve puzzles or to get to new areas when partial to the pixel art, so this gets a mention. A title which comes to us from an Indonesian developer is Blades of Mirage, an action-adventure RPG which I almost put in my list of upcoming games like Diablo, but upon examining the UI and taking a closer look, this video would be the better fit. Our heroine is able to create weapons from water, giving you options which seamlessly blend into the combat, which is in addition to puzzles, mythical creatures which serve as bosses, and art direction inspired by Southeast Asia and is one to watch. This video is brought to you by Ascend to Zero, an action roguelite with a time manipulation mechanic in which you are able to stop time to get the advantage over your enemies as you fight your way to the top of a structure. Combat takes place in their own distinct rooms or arenas, which seem to be rather small and claustrophobic, increasing the challenge as you get swarmed by enemies where you need to be strategic about positioning and timing. Stop time to dodge attacks, set up your own, then release it to unleash a devastating burst of bullets or sword strikes all at once. Also of note is that there is infinite growth in this game in terms of progression systems, since the character can go from level 1 up to level 12,100 and beyond based on screenshots, having plenty of replayability as you incrementally get stronger with every run. There are various tech chip upgrades which improve your loadout, increasing damage, reducing stamina cost for a dash and so on, with the on-screen action quickly ramping up to a crazy level. I quite like the voxel art as well, mixing chibi characters with interesting looking enemies combined with anime style character portraits and looks awesome. But they just released a playable demo, so try it via the link in the description below and wishlist the game if interested. It is not often that we get indie games going after the GTA audience, which is why Vice Magic City Mayhem caught my attention. But while it has that same kind of urban city environment, does not appear to be an open world game, but rather masterfully blends it with 2D Zelda design. You play as Dutch, a prominent enforcer in Magic City, on a quest to rescue his one true love, Sophie. It is very Vice City and Miami inspired in terms of locations and color palette, from lively nightclubs, picturesque beaches and yachts teeming with raptors, which is in addition to magic, so you get the idea, and stands out among the more commonly used fantasy setting. If you love the Game Boy Color, I'm pretty sure that Isle of Reveries will be of interest, absolutely nailing the art style and color palette, even having the square play area and looks great, where you play as an owl undertaking a pilgrimage to the enigmatic Isles of Reveries said to be able to grant any wish. This has an expansive game world which is non-linear, encouraging exploration without hand-holding, being loosely structured around 8 dungeons, each with unique themes and puzzles. You will have a fairy companion by your side, which hopefully is not as annoying as Navi, giving you the ability to duplicate and spawn various objects found in the world, such as puzzle blocks, torches, mushrooms and more, so perhaps drawing upon echoes of wisdom as well. This will be critical for solving intricate puzzles and overcoming obstacles, with the key items that you find remaining useful beyond their initial dungeon and can be used both in combat and puzzle solving as well. This is currently on Kickstarter with good momentum, so if interested, definitely check out the campaign and pledge your support. A title that is decidedly less cute or pleasant looking as compared to the earlier games in this list is Moroi. Set in a grimdark fairy tale world where you play as an amnesiac protagonist who awakens in your own personalized hellscape known as the Cosmic Engine, burdened by a mysterious crime that weighs heavily on your soul. Stripped of your memories and identity, make your way through a nightmarish realm filled with grotesque characters and bizarre scenarios, all while seeking atonement and freedom, having frantic combat but also head-scratching puzzles and a twisting narrative. First off, this has that more top-down camera angle which is not that common these days, with intense hack and slash combat, allowing you to utilize a range of weapons and abilities, including a chain sword, power hammer, or to replace your entire arm with a cannon. I do of course have to mention the art direction and enemy designs, since these are some of the freakiest enemies that I have seen and is certainly worth your attention. This next title comes to us from a Chinese developer who really are making their mark on video games, with Retrace The Light straying a little bit away from their favourite cultivation or wuxia inspired themes, instead having a more sci-fi slant in which you play as an enforcer who has lost all their data, awakening something beyond its programming as you make your way through a digital realm. Now, some things might be lost in translation here, since they talk about a spatial retracing mechanic, being able to move back in time along a path that you made, teleporting back to that spot to launch a surprise attack on enemies, which does seem cool. This will also be used in puzzle solving as you navigate the complex environment, with combat here having some Souls-like inspiration as well. Exploration will be key as you search for hidden treasures and shortcuts, looking absolutely sick, so do not sleep on this game. Back to something more classic looking in Colossus Eternal Blight, set in a fantasy world beset by a pervasive corruption known as the Blight. You play as a young knight whose tranquil existence is upended when his brother vanishes under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind only cryptic clues pointing towards the encroaching Blight. Determined to uncover the truth and restore balance to the world, our hero goes on an epic journey filled with peril, discovery, and revelation. Again, it has a vast interconnected map to explore, filled with diverse environments ranging from bustling cities to desolate wastelands, battling enemies and using a variety of weapons and skills along the way. Combat here looks good, reminding me a little bit of Crosscode, although that might just be the pixel art talking, with plenty of sword-based attacks and special skills like Blade Wall, Blade Barrage, and so on, so it appears to be a fairly by-the-numbers one of these, but could still be of interest. A game which has that Octopath Traveler vibe is the Ballad of Bellum, largely consisting of 2D sprites but also uses 3D environmental objects and camera tricks like blurring the background to give this an awesome look. Set in a captivating world brimming with charm and mystery, I'm not completely sure that the developer has fully finalized the details of their game, since the Steam page and trailer does largely seem to be listing off highlights and features, including the varied world to explore, character customization, a day-night cycle with weather, travel via locomotive, temples, dungeons, and a save the world kind of story setup, but does also question why are you doing all of these, teasing that things in this whimsical world are not what they appear to be, but based on visuals alone, this has my attention. Here's an action-adventure title with a twist, since DuneCrawl is co-op focused, where you and your crew of privateers explore a vast desert landscape, crossing the treacherous dust seas, and must work together to pilot a dune crawler, a colossal walking crustacean equipped with an array of cannons and treasure maps as you seek riches and adventure. I think that this game looks absolutely sick, mixing the more epic dune crawler battles with on-foot segments where you can go into town to presumably take out bandits or something, but can also hop on a scarab beetle or scorpion and ride them like mounts. Your dune crawler serves as both a mobile base and a formidable war machine, allowing you to engage in dynamic battles against rivals on similar creatures, although I do think that they are all CPU controlled and does not have PvP. There are resources to gather and manage, as well as a variety of upgrades available, looking pretty awesome, although I sincerely hope that it is fully playable solo. Another ambitious looking action-adventure title is Emberville, one that mixes dungeon crawling with town building and exploration, perhaps leaning more towards the Core Keeper or Terraria direction, but does still largely appear to be combat focused. Help the citizens of Emberville rebuild their town, saving them from monsters as you delve into the ever-changing labyrinth with the familiar but also compelling gameplay loop, since I'm expecting rebuilding the town to unlock new vendors and upgrades, which allows you to explore even further and looks like it has potential. Things are not looking great for the very ambitious pixel art 2D action-adventure RPG Aethyr, which was successfully kickstarted in 2018, and I'm fairly certain I covered it back then, but development and progress has been very slow on this game, with the last Kickstarter update and YouTube video in May 2023, as well as their last tweet in October 2023, so to say that communication has been bad is an understatement. I do still hope that it releases someday, since this is one of the most ambitious titles where you play as an adventurer who awakens in a strange land and, guided by a fallen god, has to uncover the mysteries of the world. This has over 21 diverse skills, from weapon proficiencies to magic, which level up the more you use them, RuneScape style, which is combined with real-time action and combat, with combat outcomes solely determined by player skill. There's also a crafting system and an open world structure looking absolutely gorgeous, but if nothing changes, this will probably be the last time that you see it on the channel, unless I'm making a video on vaporware games or something. This next title has been kicking around for the longest of time, where if you have been around indie games, you might have seen the main Grim Reaper character of Spindle cameo in some other games, where I believe this was at one point announced for 2024, so fingers crossed 2025 will finally be the year. Something has happened in the world, resulting in no one being able to die, which sounds good on paper but will have a ton of downstream effects, which leads to our protagonist picking up his scythe and going on a quest to figure out what happened along with his loyal pig companion. I love the pixel art here, which, while relatively modest by modern standards, does still look good, being a classically designed one of these, with combat, shadowy dungeons filled with unique enemies, intricate puzzles, and plenty of secrets hidden throughout the world. Of course, death will have unique powers to use, and the pig companion is not merely a passive sidekick, but also has abilities that help you explore and also participates in combat, looking pretty good as well. Another awesome looking game is Waltz and Jam, in which you play as an innocent soul and a dog, starting off the game in a place known as Downtown, which appears to be some sort of purgatory, having to take on 7 trials to complete a ticket that will either send them to Uptown or Undertown, aka Heaven or Hell. As such, while it looks cute, this might be a little darker in theme, but luckily you do have a dog companion which helps in puzzles and platforming. But it should be noted that this is single player only and is not a co-op title. You are exploring the quirky world of Downtown, which has fantastic art direction, and in line with the vibes of the game, you're collecting special toys to help you on your quest, including a boxing glove on a spring in a box, so it's that kind of wacky and whimsy that this game brings. Another long in development title is Tainted Soil, one that has a grungy pixel art style but is doing something very interesting with the art and animation of larger boss enemies, which is new as compared to when I last took a look. You play as a young girl exploring this vast, cruel world, with combat here being the focus, where you do have a range of attacks and abilities, and even the ability to jump, which is not common in games like this, along with plenty of powerful skills and spells, and looks awesome, with it finally having a Q2 2025 release window, so we'll see how this does. I'll be honest, I do get confused between Vessels of Decay and Tainted Soil mentioned earlier, both being fantastic, grungy looking pixel art action-adventure titles, but where that game in part comes to us from a Polish developer, this game is set in post-apocalyptic Scandinavia instead. Venture into the overgrown ruins of a world reclaimed by ancient creatures from Scandinavian folklore, with a dynamic battle system where you can pull off sick combos and killer execution animations and flourishes, providing a visceral combat experience. You are following a pair of siblings as they navigate through the world, but not too much else is revealed about the story, but this has been in development for a long time as well, so hopefully we will get a release date soon. This next title is of note since it comes to us from the developer of Anodyne and Anodyne 2, where Angeline Era is drawing from a different era of games, in particular the N64 and the Ys series, seen in the art style, camera angle, and rune-based world design. Set in a vibrant world inhabited by fae, humans, and angels, your task is to uncover its mysteries, with the developer putting their bump/combat system front and center. If you're not familiar, this means that bumping into enemies causes your character to attack instead of having to press a button, and is certainly a unique combat system worth a look. Also, you can platform and jump in this game, which will be critical for exploration and even avoiding enemy attacks, where there just seems to be so much variety here in terms of game mechanics, camera angles, and so on, and simply looks awesome in my opinion. One of the best examples of a Kickstarter success story is that of Former Dawn, an action-adventure RPG that is being built for the NES. Yes, you heard that right, it is pushing the boundaries of what would be possible on the technical side, since they are making and releasing cartridges as well, nailing the visuals and art style, but does have modern tweaks like frames of animation that seems to be beyond what the NES would be capable of, where they are doing this with a custom memory mapper known as MXM1, which enhances it to an almost 16-bit level. This combines both real-time action-adventure combat with turn-based JRPG combat, with overworld exploration, Mode 7 when in the airship, and so on, looking like quite the curiosity. Another no-brainer pick is Pipistrello and the Cursed Yoyo, one which is set in an urban environment and combines action, exploration, and puzzle solving, where you make your way through the districts of the city, utilizing a variety of yo-yo tricks to overcome challenges and uncover the secrets surrounding the Pipistrello family's legacy. This looks brilliant as well, having some of the most clean looking pixel art, with the yo-yo being an unconventional tool, which is both your weapon as well as the object of choice when it comes to exploration and traversal. Apparently, there will be over 1,000 screens in this game to explore as you infiltrate the establishments of 4 rival crime bosses. There are also RPG-like elements with 40 equipable badges, as well as passive upgrades, with this having a release date in May and is a high potential game. Speaking of high potential, Littlelands has an awesome visual style going for it, resembling children's wooden toys in spots, also having a little bit of that Animal Crossing or Earthbound vibe, but appears to be primarily an action-adventure title with combat. You are going out into the wilderness to explore, solving puzzles and fighting enemies if needed, as you root around to discover treasure and secrets. There's also the growing of berries and fishing in this game, although I don't think that it is on the level of a farm sim like Stardew Valley, but it's an obvious pick to watch if you love this genre. A recently announced title is Moonlighter 2: The Endless Vault, the sequel to a popular action-adventure plus shopkeeping title, often referred to as a roguelite, but I would not consider it to be one, where this sequel ditches the pixel art of the original but still looks great. It appears to be largely similar, where you are manning the shop in the day and delving into the dungeon at night, presumably the titular Endless Vault, fighting enemies and getting loot and resources for crafting so that you can fill up your shop with things to sell. You can then use those profits to upgrade your shop or to improve the town, unlocking more vendors for more upgrades, where thus far I'm not seeing anything too different in terms of concept as compared to the original, but fancy new graphics might make it more appealing to a new generation, and given the pedigree, should be awesome. This next title is quite the curiosity, since Tako no Himitsu Ocean of Secrets is the spiritual successor to the 2018 game Save Me Mr. Tako from the same developer, which was a 2D side-scrolling platformer with more original Game Boy inspiration, where this draws upon the Game Boy Advance instead. In this world, the octopuses were erased from history, and now our heroes have to find their way in a world of brewing political tensions between nations, the rise of the mysterious Temple of Order, as well as the sudden appearance of Shadow Voids. Interestingly, there are 6 distinct playable characters, each with their own octopus companion, where you're able to swap between them on the fly, using the variety in powers and abilities to deal with bosses and enemies. Of course, me being me, I think that this game looks absolutely fantastic and nailed what they are going for, also being a Kickstarter success story, and I'm very excited for this. One of the best kept secrets on Steam is the absolutely free Bloody Hell, a bullet hell action-adventure title with some Metroidvania backtracking elements, where following the success and reception of that, the developers have decided to make a paid sequel titled Bloody Hell 2. Being a sequel, this looks to build upon the original's engaging mechanics with deeper combat systems and intricate environmental designs, along with a visual overhaul as well. You play as a tiny angel wielding a massive demonic hammer, fighting your way through the deepest levels of hell in order to figure out how heaven fell. On top of pulverizing enemies with the hammer, you can also use it to deflect enemy projectiles, throw it yourself and more, giving you options in combat, with the monstrous bosses looking like quite the challenge and should be great as well. I love my monster taming games, but if you're sad that it's mostly turn-based RPGs like Pokemon, think Koromon for example, a real-time action-adventure title to watch is Creature Keeper. You can befriend wild animals and raise them to fight alongside with you as you uncover the mystery of what is causing these wild creatures to become hostile. There are a ton of systems here, including a bestiary, which fills up the more you battle or tame these creatures, a pocket garden where you can grow plants, which can then be used in the cooking system to prepare food for your companions, and you can even give hats to the creatures, having fantastic pixel art as well. This too is one of the longest in development titles, so we should be getting a date anytime now, but for now, at least wishlist the game. For some reason, a couple of these action-adventure titles have been revealed or announced, but seem to be taking an extra long time as compared to other genres, case in point being Nina the Hollower, coming to us of course from the developer of Shovel Knight, so expectations are through the roof with this one. Set in a gothic horror inspired world, think Castlevania, but inhabited by anthropomorphic animals, our heroine is on a desperate mission to save a cursed island. Armed with a whip as a primary weapon, as well as the ability to burrow and dig underground, these form the core elements of combat and exploration. There are a bunch of other weapons and sidearms like a dagger as well, equipable trinkets for permanent enhancements, as well as what looks like an RPG-like leveling system, not to forget the absolutely delicious pixel art, which makes this one of my most anticipated games. The game in the action-adventure space right now is Crosscode, an awesome multi-tens of hours title with a ton of content, so of course the next title from the same developer will be of note in Alabaster Dawn. This looks to be fairly similar in concept, with combat appearing to have more of a melee focus, although you can still see the similarities in traversal, exploration, and even the puzzle solving, but layers on additional systems like rebuilding settlements, re-establishing trade routes and more, but I have full confidence in this team that this will be great. Watch this video for upcoming pixel art titles.